What we have here is information that's laid out for us to calculate our 4 employer taxes. And I want to point out right here that this is our 4 employer taxes, and they have listed to the right of them our percentages for unemployment, for our taxes. We have Social Security tax is 6.2, Medicare tax is 1.4, unemployment tax is 0.8, and that's why I said you always need to remember your state unemployment needs to be higher than your federal, and your state unemployment is 5.4. What we have to take a look at is we have 2 employees that we're looking at. We have this column here called accumulated earnings. That's going to be how much earnings they have had prior to this paycheck. So when we look at Tamala has only earned up to April 30th $5,100. Irma has earned $7,350. This pay period, this is what their paychecks are. So what I need to do right now is I need to add up these 2 paychecks and get a total right there for the total earnings for this pay period. So go ahead, take your calculator out and do that. Okay, everyone's got their calculators out? Clayton, got your calculator out? Okay, so that is the total earnings for this pay period. Now, what we have to take a look at is we have that tax base of $7,000. We will only pay on earnings up to $7,000 for our employment taxes. Do we pay anything for Irma? Why not? She exceeded $7,000. So how much tax do we have to pay on for Irma? 0. Because this number right here is already above $7,000. Now when we take a look at Tamala, you will have an example in this chapter where you have somebody that would have partial earnings. So let's say that this was $6,900. How much tax would we pay? Only $100, right? But in this example, if I take $673.50 plus $5,100, am I over $7,000? No. So how much tax what am I going to base my taxes off? I'm going to base it off of $637.50. This amount right there. That's how much she earned this pay period. This is how much I have to pay taxes on for her for unemployment. Now, Social Security and Medicare has a higher tax base. Have Irma or Tamala exceeded that tax base? No, they haven't. Thank you, Alex. So for Social Security tax, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this $1,557.50 and I'm going to multiply that by 6.2%. And then the answer is going to go right here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take $1,557.50, multiply it by my Medicare tax, and then that answer is going to go right here on this line. I am not, repeat, not taking $1,557 and multiplying it by 0.8, because the number that I use for unemployment tax is this column right here, the people that have earned less than $7,000. Just calculate on the computer too. It does not disappear on you. Anyone get the amount for unemployment tax payable federal? What's that? What is our number that we have to multiply? Times? I'm going to take 0.008, Tyson. I totally agree with that, but what am I going to multiply it by? Not 155,750. Because if I take a look at 155,750, Irma has already earned more than $7,000. I do not pay any unemployment taxes on Irma's earnings. So what am I going to multiply it by? This number right here. This column that says unemployment taxable earnings. The only earnings I'm going to pay unemployment tax on is going to be the $637.50. Bless you. So I'm going to take $637.50, multiply that by 0.008. So what number do I get? $5.10, right? A very small number, would you agree? Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing for unemployment tax state. I'm going to take $637.50 I multiply that by 0.054, and that's going to give me $34 and what is my cents? 43, because we got to round it. Now, I'm going to add up the total of all of my taxes that I have to pay. So I'm going to take $96.57 plus $22.58 plus $5.10 plus $34.43 I got $158.90. Anyone agree? No? I think my calculator was off. Clear. 96.57. $158.68. That's better? Okay, thank you. So what does that mean? When I take a look at the total cost of my payroll, there's two things now a business that we need to be aware of. There's physically the cost that I pay my employees. Like physically they get a paycheck, right? That costs the business money. If I went through and paid all of my employees, that's going to decrease the value of my business based on my expenses associated with that, and that would be salary expense. Now, the other thing I have to realize, though, is it costs the employer money just to have employees, that additional taxes. And in this case, the total expense of those employer taxes is $158.68. And that account title is going to be associated with payroll taxes expense. So we have 4 taxes that an employer has to pay: Social Security, Medicare, federal unemployment, and state unemployment. The total of all of those is going to be associated with an expense account called payroll taxes. When we pay our employees, the expense associated with our employees is salary expense. Many students struggle remembering which one is associated with which, but you need to remember employees sometimes will earn a salary, so they should get salary expense. When we deal with what the employer has to pay, we're going to deal just with the account of payroll taxes expense, because those are just things that the business has to pay. What we have done now is the first part, and the first part is just calculating the amounts. The next thing that we have to do is we have to journalize it. We always have to journalize it with our debits going first. Now, we are physically not paying this amount, so this is not going in my cash payments journal. What we are doing is the minute that we pay our employees, we are now liable for those floor employer taxes. So when we're liable, that means we owe that money to the government. So I have to go through and record the fact that I owe this money. I'm not paying it. So my source document is going to be an M for a memorandum. So therefore, it's going to need to go into my general journal. Okay, so in my general journal does not have any special columns, so every account title is going to need to be listed. We're going to do our debit first, followed by our credits. And I will tell you this, Applio will mark it wrong if you do not have your payroll taxes listed in the correct order. And they should be Social Security, Medicare, federal unemployment, and state unemployment. Okay, but those are not the titles. So let's take a look at our journal here and get our information from our table up top that we calculated on the bottom. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to record this as the date, and it says we're going to journalize the employer payroll taxes for May 1st to the 15th on the pay period on May 15th of the current year, and we're going to use General Journal page 10 and Memorandum 46. So I have to do my debit. My debit is going to be payroll taxes expense. And then it's going to be for M46. And I'm going to debit that $158.68. That is the total of all of my taxes. I am then going to do my Social Security tax payable, which is $96.57. Medicare tax payable, unemployment tax payable federal for $5.10. Unemployment tax payable state for $34.43. So I have 1 debit and 4 credits. I strongly recommend that you read section 13.2. I've explained it. The tax earning number is going to be a confusing part and will cause lots of problems on this chapter unless you fully understand it. So make sure you take the time to read 13.2. Go ahead right now and work on the on your own, please. Okay, so when we look at this application problem, we have 2 pay periods. It's exactly the same as what you did in Work Together and On Your Own, but they're putting it together. So you have 2 pay periods. So when I look here, we have a first pay period April 1st to the 15th, and then I have April 16th to the 30th. So the first thing you have to do is you have to calculate your payroll taxes for April 15th. I would like you looking up here, because if you're not going to look, I'm not going to explain, and I'll let you figure it out and I won't answer questions. Okay? So we have here your unemployment taxes, and what is our tax base for unemployment? $7,000. So we have to go through and look at each person individually and determine, do they have unemployment taxes? So when I look here at Teresa, what is going to go right here for Teresa? 0 for sure, right? Because she's exceeded. Okay? So this is what we did before. Nothing too difficult. This is going to be total here and total here. Now, this is our accumulated earnings. And what does this column mean? I'm going to take my accumulated earnings on March 31st, add their total earnings here to get me this number. Because this is going to be their accumulated earnings prior to this paycheck, because we might have an employee that we pay some taxes on here, but we're not going to pay any taxes on here. Does that make sense? Because when they add across. So you're going to take your accumulated earnings March 31st plus your total earnings for April 1st to the 15th, and that number will go there. And then you determine if they're going to go over the 7,000 number here. So this bottom portion is going to be where you go through and calculate your taxes for the April 15th payroll. This far right box is going to be where you calculate your payroll taxes for the April 30th payroll. Sound good? So it's exactly the same, but you just have to calculate that accumulated earnings to this point. Go forth, calculate payroll.